first album we've got for you then is Night Terrors from The Fades. This was released on the 21st of October last year on Bark Like a Dog Records. It's 10 tracks, roughly 40 minutes. So The Fades are a London-based sort of garage rock band.
Yeah.
I think this is their fourth studio album to date. Their debut album was released way back in 2004, so they've been around for about 2 decades at this point. I think it shows in their sort of level of musicianship as well. But the band are made up of Dave Lightfoot on vocals and guitar, his brother James Lightfoot on bass, lifetime school friend Johnny Barnard also on guitar, and Alistair Flash Thorpe on drums. So I've seen various descriptions of their sound, which kind of vary from post-punk to garage rock to surf punk. I think those do apply, but I think there's also a healthy dose of alternative rock, punk rock, classic rock, funk, that hard rock. So there's quite a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, so I would agree with you, Sned. So as you said, they've been likened to a few different bands, a few different types of genres. I remember coming across a description by a guy by the name of Paul Cook from Fresh on the Net, and he described them as like someone fired up a surf punk into the sun at warp speed while a heavenly choir rejoices in the shredding with their beatific as. Which at first, when I was kind of writing my notes, I was like, yeah, that certainly seems pretty apt. And from the first couple of tracks, I kind of got a bit of a kind of psychobilly vibe. So the first track, Time Is Right, for example, which is mostly a kind of instrumental piece with the exception of the aforementioned oohs and ahs and what have you. For my money, it was kind of reminiscent of the opening track Middle from the 1995 Dracula Scream album by Rocket from the Crypt,
okay.
which, we're both fans of. It's an absolutely seminal album. So yeah, the band kind of immediately won me over with that. And then, so the first track brilliantly kind of segues into Follow Me Around, much like Dracula Scream album with kind of Born in 69. The two complement each other really well. I thought it was an absolute banger of a track. And it was unsurprisingly one of the singles that the band chose to release from the album. I think that was released just at the start of August and is one of the band's most listened to tracks on Spotify. But yeah, I think probably that's where the similarities kind of end, as you said. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bit of prog in there. There's definitely a bit of classic rock. You know what I mean? There was times where I was like, that sounds like a bit of kind of Sabbath-esque type kind of guitar riffs, which I really enjoyed. I've kind of likened them to The Clash, which is kind of early punk, but probably some of the more avant-garde and experimental side of The Clash, so specifically from like the London Calling album. I've also even kind of likened them a bit to like, there's kind of touchstones there, a kind of Pink Floyd as well.
Yeah, so, I've found, picked out elements of like Kansas, Van Halen, probably a bit of Joy Division, Alice in Chains even. There's some bits that sound a bit like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Stone Temple Pilots. Like, it's just, if you like rock and punk music, then this is, definitely an album for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, that opening track, it feels a bit like a sort of jam session because it is mostly instrumental, but it's like one of the members of the band says that was it at the end of the song. Is like, yeah, that was the perfect take kind of thing. It's like, yeah. Agreed.
Well, it's interesting you say that it feels like a bit of a kind of jam session, because like when I was reading about this album on, I think, their website and their Bandcamp page, I think this album was recorded over the course of a weekend in Brixton Hill Studios using analog equipment in order to recreate and capture a new record that was as true to their live sound as possible. I definitely think they've done that. The album itself was kind of largely written over the course of 2021, whilst grabbing time between lockdowns and sought to encapsulate the anxieties, sense of dread that we're all experiencing and subjected to as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, with the lead singer David writing that he often found himself waking up with that kind of dreaded witching hour of 3 a.m. in the morning, thinking about everything and everything everywhere all at once, hence the album's namesake, Night Terrors. And that's something that's kind of touched upon at kind of various points throughout the course of the album.
There's so much good stuff on here, like going back to You Follow Me Around, the second track. You've got stabbing punk riffs, bubbling bass lines, these really catchy lead guitars, the You Follow Me Around refrain in the chorus. There's even like a sort of palm muted bridge section that sounds like it's going into ska punk territories. I mean, like you said, it's an absolute banger. And then you've got The Pessimist, which is a lot more down and dirty. It's more like a hard rock song. It's got these big riffs, big distorted riffs, crushing drums, these sort of bending, squealing guitars. You've got Drives Me On, which is just a catchy garage punk rock song. My favourite part of that song is there's a sort of melodic pre-chorus with the lyrics that goes, all moves I made to get here, discarded dreams I've held dear, got to show myself some more respect, got to try and find what I have left. And I just love the melody of those lyrics, and I just kind of wanted more of that on that track, but it is a good song. And there's just heaps of good songs on here. You've got Lost My Job, People in General. I mean, I'm just reading them out as they come on the track list. Night Terrors.
Sorry to interrupt. There's Lost My Job. Was the one that probably kind of mostly reminded me of Clash's London Calling, like specifically not the London Calling song, but a song of an album called Hateful. You know, there's the kind of the band kind of introduced these kind of female vocalist and backing vocals. She comes back for a few more tracks, I think, kind of towards the end of the album. There's kind of soaring flourishes of saxophones during the choral sections, which were really enjoyable, and this kind of frenzied, almost kind of excited guitar riff, kind of hidden away behind the scenes, that I really quite enjoyed. And I think it was that kind of most reminded me most of the Clash's London Calling's Hateful. The sixth track, as you said, People in General, I thought that was a great sentiment. Like, it just reminded me of like proper schoolyard teenager Kevin and Perry type thing to say, like, you know, people in general, like, are getting me down.
Sorry, that's the song that reminded me of Kansas. Like, just the riffs on that really reminded me of Carry On My Wayward Son. It's like that really sort of classic rock. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, well, that's the one. I think it was the kind of the monologue. So there's a wee kind of guest spot on this song by a guy named Les Fruitbat Carter. He does the outro monologue from around the kind of 1:33 mark. The kind of song kind of strips back and takes on more of a kind of proggy, ethereal type soundscape, and it's basically kind of talking about, I think, making a tit of himself, like after having a few too many pints. And then, like, going home, playing his guitar, and I think playing his guitar while listening to Hurdy-Gurdy, I think, which, who sings that again? I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. Donovan. I think it's Donovan.
Is it Donovan?
Yeah, I think so. I'm probably totally wrong. But yeah, I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah. I
like spoken word stuff too. Like,
yeah, totally. I've done this thing in my notes this time round where I was like, right, I'm going to highlight my favourite tracks on albums in green. So I'll be like, right, quickly know which ones are my favourites. But for this album, I've highlighted almost all of them. So it's like kind of redundant because they're all like, all of these songs are.
It's a great
really
album,
good.
man.
Yeah. I want to mention Known It All Along, which is track 8, because it reminded me a lot of the Stone Temple Pilots. Like, there's just riffs in there that really remind me of the song Plush, which is a brilliant song. And the bits where the singer is like singing through a megaphone, like, it just sounds like Red Hot Chili Peppers in a way.
Do you want to know what it reminded me of?
Yeah, sure.
And I was still wishing for you to kind of say this. That's why I'm kind of interrupted you there, just so that I could kind of beat you to it. It really reminded me of, you know, the song Mutants from the Mighty Bush.
I should do.
We are the mutant people.
Yeah.
And it was specifically that bit that you're just talking about, where he's singing into the megaphone. I couldn't get it out of my head, man. It made me enjoy the song more for that reason. You need to go back and listen to it, man, because there's a definite likeness there.
Yeah, I definitely do. I never picked up bizarrely. I never picked up on that one. But anything that harks back to the Mighty Push can only be a good thing, except for Series 3, because that was shit. But there you go. It's my hot take on the Mighty Push. So right, what score have you given this in?
Oh man, I've said a strong 9, possibly 10. I'm very tempted just to give it a 10, man. I'm in a good... Yeah.
You're in a good mood?
It. I'm in a good mood. Fuck it, yeah, man. Because there's nothing... There was no... Yeah, I don't think there was any one song where I was like, oh, this... You know what I mean? Like, it's... There's no real low points, I don't think, in the album at all. No, not all along. Like, we kind of touched on that. It's a long track, isn't it? It's kind of 9:41. I remember, like, it being a bit, like, I didn't feel as if it was dragging on necessarily.
So not television?
It's television.
Television is like, that's the one that sounds kind of Pink Floyd-y, and it's like, it's nearly 10 minutes. But
so there was, I suppose, a bit of a dip in energy, I suppose, of sorts, you know, when you compare it to maybe the first couple of tracks or whatever, which I really enjoyed. But nah, man, like, I love this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've given it I'd like an easy 9 out of 10. So, you know, I agree with you. It's a really, really great album. But yeah, go for it. Put it in. So that's
fuck it. Get it in.
So you're just going to give everything 10 out of 10.
Fuck it, man. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so
that's two of the things that I've reviewed.
So that's also going into the Hall of Fame. So that was Night Terrors by the Fades.
It's finished.